Well, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to College Coffee Talk with your hosts, Pearl and Andy Lockwood, where we talk about all things college. And we've got a doozy, doozy of a show today. I was just saying this to you this morning when you reminded me what we were talking about, how valuable I think this information is, particularly because you could literally save several $1,000s just by listening to this. I think we should charge for this advice, of course. That's my brain works. But you're not going to hear this information anywhere else, too. So this is a show, where we try to bring to you college news you can use, information about getting into college, about paying for college. Pearl and Andy Lockwood, good morning. If you have a coffee drink or other, please join us in a synchronized sip. 1, 2, 3. I was not happy with the foam performance of our cappuccino maker today. Yours looks much better.
I was very happy, but I use regular, good old-fashioned milk.
Don't go there. I'm just dealing with all sorts of drama off the air today.
Yeah.
Okay, so let us talk a little bit. Well, actually, so just to date stamp this, middle of May, we've got a bunch of seniors heading off to college in a few months. We've got people coming home from college, both in our business and our little household here. And it's kind of striking some of the stuff that you uncover year after year in terms of hidden costs that come either directly from the college or indirectly from the college. So we're going to be talking about insurance, about borrowing, if you live off campus, and we're also going to be talking about returning students.
It's all about like things that could catch you off guard. All of these topics.
They get buried. But each one of them is potentially worth, a few $1,000s of savings. Yeah. So, all right, you want to start with the school insurance?
Sure.
But first, let's say hi to anyone who's joining us here today. And if you are, if you are in the chat here, say hi to us so we can know that we're coming in loud and clear.
Don't be shy. Tell us hi.
Why?
I know. Just because I knew you'd say that after I said this.
Okay. So I'm fumbling around here trying to see us.
Andy has a very, very low threshold for anything corny. So I do so at my own risk and peril, with eyes wide open.
You do that to antagonize a little bit. Okay, which I appreciate. All right, so good morning to Carrie, to Christine, our assistants. Good morning to Margaret and Donna and Tracy. So if you have questions, this is a great opportunity to get them answered. We don't for free, right? So most of the time to talk to us, it costs a fair amount of money. This is an opportunity to reach people who can't, whatever, they don't have the money to hire us, or they don't want to, or you just want to get some free information. That is exactly why we do this. It's just our way of trying to
paying it forward.
Yeah, get it out there. So, all right. So enough about that. Go ahead with some money-saving info.
Some money-saving info. So I would consider this topic one of these sort of parenthetical topics. And what I mean by that, the cost of attendance is room, board, tuition. We all know so much about that. And fees. Fees, like when you hear the word fees, you're like, oh, a couple $100, right? Nope. Part of your fees, for example, is a default health insurance plan that the school puts you on and charges you approximately $3,000 on top of whatever else you were always paying. Those would be like the end fees. They just do it. And how this happens at different schools varies. So my point is, and I'll just give you an illustration of what I mean. The good news is, first I'm making you aware, your school, most schools put health insurance and charge you for it on the student. Unless part is you have to affirmatively and decidedly and expressly and within their prescribed time frame. So you first got to be lucky enough to be aware that this is the case and know about it before the waiver period ends, because I think that happened to me. One kid, 1 year at some point, and I was like, oh, goody, an extra $3,000 I didn't need to pay in the backdrop. And that,
I'm glad you could laugh about it.
yeah, now, they were so enriched by that health insurance they didn't need that year. Kidding. So what to do? So every school has a waiver of this health insurance to get it off your bill. It is going to be on your bill, and you're going to have to take active steps to get it off your bill. And you're going to have to find out not what happened at your older kid's school, but at this school that this student is going to and whose insurance you're trying to get waived. Sometimes it's as easy as you find out, and it's sometimes like clicking to find out the cost of attendance of a school or about its merit awards or things that are like require 10 clicks. This too is something that will require 10 clicks or possibly even a phone call. Okay. So
They make that so easy.
no, but and you want to find out, what do I need to do? Make it like for a kindergartner, give me the steps for waiving the insurance. Often it's a website that you have to go on and click on and make sure you get your confirmation and time and date stamped and all that good stuff so that they take it off your bill. And then here in other schools, it's not just that simple. If sometimes you have to like show proof of other insurance, and they make getting that waiver extraordinarily challenging, difficult, complicated, obtuse, and make you feel like you can't do it, or you're going to fall into some kind of black hole, an abyss.
Well, the thing that's so annoying is that you have to opt out of it. You're automatically charged it and
Right.
enrolled, and that can mess up your other insurance too, right?
Right, and it certainly can, because sometimes the school insurance doesn't cover a lot of whatever it is your insurance had covered all the years your student had been on their insurance, and you don't usually have both. Anyway.
So it could be like a $3,000 thing you have to
Right.
look out for. So if your current insurance is adequate, you should opt out of the school insurance and save yourself the
Exactly.
money.
Find out from the school itself exactly how and when to do that. So that's fine.
Yeah, I see some questions coming in, which are great. So if you're just joining us, it's College Coffee Talk, lob in your questions. Today we're talking about all the scummy hidden college costs that Pearl has uncovered. Not all of them, I guess, but a big chunk of them that she's uncovered over the years, and these are things that can
Just
really add up.
hiccups that can
savings.
happen along the way.
So I see a question from Rob. Good morning to Maria. Very cool. Nice to see you guys. So continue on.
Continue on with new topic.
Well, let's talk about hidden college costs.
Well, I meant of my topics of these.
I
hidden
thought you
college-
meant like you
Okay.
could switch to like
Moving
the latest Broadway.
Moving on from the medical insurance, but really, folks, don't get bullied by your school, okay? And don't get intimidated just because so many things are happening and your kid is starting school in a few weeks and there are so many moving parts. Don't get intimidated out of this. If you have insurance that otherwise covers your students, or get out of the $3,000 or so that they're going to charge you for it. But you got to do it like now, because that waiver period is going to be over like August 1st. And a lot of times people find out about it like August 15th. And that's a bummer.
Or
And you're
September.
like, okay, next year I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, I want to talk about borrowing a smidge, just to give a very quick overview, and then specifically how off-campus housing borrowing works. Okay, so when students are given a certain amount that they can borrow in their own name, and it is somewhere in and around between $5,000 and $7,000, $8,000, depending on what grade they're in, what year of school they're in, and a parent can borrow up to either a specified dollar amount or, and I quote, this is exactly the language in the loan application. Parent, I want to borrow up to the cost of attendance as determined by the school. That is the actual language. And what that means is cost of attendance, as I just discussed, room, board, tuition, and fees.
I do have a question about travel costs, which we'll cover after you get through this.
Okay.
But that's part of the cost of attendance.
Minus whatever the student is borrowing or otherwise granted, That's what the parent is seeking to borrow. Okay, great. First year, kid lives on campus, wonderful. The parent loan and the student loan funds twice a year, once at the start of the fall semester, once at the start of this spring semester. Okay, great. And you get notification when that happens. What happens in year 2? Sophomore year, student wants to make new friends, going to live in an apartment off campus, near campus. And okay, well, the parent borrowed for cost of attendance the first year and wants to do so again. So often the thought process, and it seems logical, would be, okay, I'll put in my loan application for the cost of attendance, which covers room, board, and tuition and fees. So my lovely child can reside off campus with their new friends. Okay, so tuition $60,000 and another $25,000 because the cost of attendance is $85,000 all in. So okay, cool. They're going to keep the 60, and then they're going to give me back a check for $25,000 so that for my room and board, right? No, wrong. Beware, do not pass go. That is not how it works. It does not work that way. Although it seems logical, it is not how it works. How it works is there is a totally different number that the school assigns for those families borrowing up to the cost of attendance, but indicate they are residing off campus, but are seeking that coverage. There is an assigned dollar amount that the school predetermines for students who are in that situation that it is going to, and this is how it works. When the borrowing happens and it's about to fund, thus there's a borrowing for the cost of attendance. The government sends the money for that student to the school. The school internally recognizes it has that student for tuition only. It keeps the tuition portion of the fee, and then it cuts a check back to the parent or the student, depending on what you elect in the application. And a certain dollar amount that the school has predetermined is going to be allotted for off-campus housing, room and board, reimbursed expenses.
So if your kid has an ultra luxury situation, chances are that borrowing is not going to cover that amount. It's sort of a standard,
right?
This is what it should cost type of judgment.
Right. Yes. So my best advice to all of my clients and friends is the following, so that you can budget properly and not be caught unaware and in a financial crunch when your kids all moved in and rent is flowing and the second year has started, etc. Here's what I recommend at this juncture. Even if your kid's a freshman, even if your kid hasn't started yet, you call the bursar's office and say, hi, I am a parent borrowing for the full cost of attendance. I've done that while they've lived on campus. Next year, my kid is going to be living off campus, and I borrow for the full cost of attendance. What is the dollar amount that you are going to give families back once in the fall and once in the spring as a check for the reimbursement of off-campus housing, room and board expenses? What is that dollar number so I can budget with my student when we go looking for apartments, right? Makes sense. Often you're going to get the following, so frustrating, like being at the post office or being at DMV. I'm sorry, but we haven't worked out the figures yet for next year. Hey, but you're going to be one step ahead of them, and you're going to say, no problem. What was the number this year? Because you already wrote those checks and those were the same number. So that's the number you're going to ask for. And you're going to just
skip to that step, I think.
Agreed. But just understand, I wanted to really painstakingly say it like that because I want you to feel what the choreography of your conversations with the college and their little offices are going to be like, as you may have already.
Yeah, but that's
garnered.
fine because that's if you do it for this year, then that's the low ball number. So they may increase it next year, but
It
they may
gives you
not.
a clue because honestly,
It's
you
conservative.
would be sorely mistaken if you went based on my little fun example. Oh, we're going to get $25,000 back the year. How great! And then to learn that you're actually going to get $3,000 a semester. That's really different, and that's really possible at a lot of schools. So
Yeah, kids don't have to live in luxury apartments either.
that's a whole other story. I just want you to be informed
Yeah.
in a timely fashion when you are looking for these places and signing up on leases, that
Yeah.
you're not caught the other way. And I don't want you to be signing leases and saying, oh, we'll just borrow it, we'll just borrow it, we'll just borrow it, like we did, without knowing what I just said.
Good. That's great. All right. So if you have questions, I see some more coming in here. Good morning. This is the place to lob them in. Good morning to Cynthia, to Tony Ann, to Nat, to Elaine, to Boob. I hope I pronounced that somewhat accurately. To Julie. Got a question from Oriana and from Margaret. She said she lost you. I don't know if she lost you in the discussion or the technology. But the bottom line is that what you think are the costs for housing may not be the same number that the financial aid office thinks when it's allocating financial aid. It's not just loans, by the way. It's any aid based on the
Right.
cost of attendance.
Yes.
Okay, so let me throw in Rob's comment here. What is your? I'll give a short answer, then you can expand.
Okay.
He says how do colleges calculate travel costs? And I would say bare minimum, like budget airline, and one trip, or it's always bare bones.
I wouldn't count on much. You can ask the question in the same way I just presented this scenario with asking about the off-campus housing reimbursement expense, in the same way, so that you can, and again, oh, you can't give me information about next year? Give me some information about how it is now.
Well, and of course, if you live a flight away versus a drive away, that's that will impact your cost of attendance.
Yes.
And we have several clients, and actually one of our own kids, who needs to come home for doctor's appointments, which is much more frequent than she would otherwise have to come home. So sometimes you can appeal and ask for additional funds, for that. I think I wrote at least 2 of those types of appeals in the last few weeks. Question from Oriana: can you use the 529 funds to cover off-campus housing to the max limit of campus housing? So you need to really check with your accountant on this one, and read the language of what constitutes a quote unquote higher education expense. My belief is that you can use it for the whole thing. So
I would agree.
So I would, in the absence of wanting to talk to your accountant or do your own research, I would just use it to cover that, and ask forgiveness later or something. I don't think it's going to be denied as a deduction, as a permitted use. So okay.
I would agree.
Thank you.
Next up, okay, here's just another little thing that is not out there in the big, on the big marquee of the college planning thing, that can be a real issue for students along the way. Not really in the freshman year, but what we have found is in some colleges, there is not guaranteed housing for upperclassmen. Upperclassmen is any sophomore, junior, senior, and
Super senior,
and super senior, or super senior. And I know on its face it says, well, guys, they could just get an apartment, or yeah, okay, that's true. However, sometimes the college is in an area that is in a huge real estate boom, and there's an absolute shortage of housing, and there's no place to live, or there's like a price gouging situation where the smallest, tiniest studio is going to be like $2,000. Well, that's a month.
And you're talking about a specific college.
Right now, I'm talking actually about University of Tampa.
Yeah, it's not just Tampa.
Right. But this happens in a varying way throughout the colleges. So when you are vetting your own school that you're, I expect if you're at the point in time where you're about to commit, I mean, maybe you've committed already, but part of your due diligence in deciding which school can be this issue. Specifically, how does housing look for returning students? And if no, most kids live off campus. Oh, and is there any issue with getting apartments? And what is the cost of these apartments? How much do you cover? That's where that question comes in. What am I going to be responsible for in years 2, 3, 4? It's not just about where you got in and just the freshman year and what dorm in the freshman year. There's 3/4 left of college at least after that freshman year that you also have to think about. So if you have a student that's borrowing for the cost of attendance and now they're forced to live off campus, okay, because there's a shortage of on-campus housing for upperclassmen, that student is forced, again, because there's nothing cheap in the area of University of Tampa. This kid, like, looking high and low, would rather live on campus. But apparently, like, the cheapest thing he could find was like $1,700 or something like that. Now, I'm pretty darn positive that University of Tampa is not going to be cutting a check back to that family to cover that kind of housing expense. So it's a real rub and it's an issue. So what's going to happen? They're going to have to borrow for it. They're going to have to come up with it, borrow for it privately, actually, because they're going to be capped at what they can borrow from the federal system too. So these are just other issues to consider, to explore at the school that you're considering, that can really greatly affect, the finances of what you've computed things to be, and just your overall convenience at a particular school.
Not to mention your kid's experience at this school. I mean,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of situations where doubles are being converted into quads.
Yeah.
Singles into doubles.
Yeah.
So it's a real issue at a lot of these schools that over-admit kids because they need the tuition dollars, but then they, a lot of them put them in like army barrack type situations. The other extreme is if these are like, the $1,700 a month places are really luxurious. Like, our daughter at Michigan paid about that.
Yeah.
And that building was like nicer than anything we ever lived in before we bought our first house.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's appreciative. She earned it, but it was kind of a shock.
Yeah.
At least to me. Yeah.
Not just to you.
Well,
some of the roommates' families too.
Oh yeah, right. That was funny. I had a great conversation with her roommate's dad.
Okay.
Which
you could just leave this be.
Yeah, it was hilarious. Okay, all right. Last call for questions. Donna, this is a question/comment, I guess, more of a comment. More FAFSA drama. Your daughter has the financial aid offer from her college, including need-based, yet you're still getting email blasts from the Department of Ed saying that you haven't signed part of the form. So talk a little bit about these email blasts.
Okay.
Not just that particular one, but also we haven't you haven't filed your FAFSA yet. We're missing your information.
Okay, very quickly on yours in particular is, my guess is if you did some kind of amendment, correction, change, and failed to go all the way through and click an electronic signature and resubmit it, that could be one issue. Or if it says like a parent's electronic signature is missing, you'd have to log in with the parent's FSA ID, et cetera, to see. But I don't think that's exactly, I think that was maybe your specific question, but you're just generally speaking though.
Well, just because we're getting all these emails from clients saying, I thought this was filed, like what happened? And that happens year after year after year, not just this year.
Unfortunately, this is where I always use this expression, the land of should does not actually exist.
Well, it should though.
When you file your FAFSA at a school and a school gets notice, why? Because we know, because they are time and date stamped when we submit these things, the school immediately gets these things in their interwebs that be at their school. But nonetheless, whatever bots it has, enhanced its marketing efforts with, will assault you with never-ending emails about needing your FAFSA and don't be shut out of financial aid. And yet you're like, I did this. I did. Okay. Unfortunately, this is the way it is. This is the lay of the land. Sometimes, usually those email blasts saying something that you really head scratching, saying, I really thought I submitted that. You did, and you can disregard it because it's a bot incorrectly emailing you, or it's a bot just trying again at mass vomiting marketing efforts at anybody who showed its school interest.
But a lot of people have not filled out their FAFSAs
True.
yet, so they're
Right.
they're catching those people,
Yep.
but they're also it's like the
Yes.
baby in the bathwater. They're throwing everyone out.
Exactly. And unfortunately for those diligent families who did what they're supposed to and they actually did file it and they have it, to get an email like that can be quite alarming and stressful and make you feel very uncertain. Wait, did I do it? Did I not do it? Is it done right? Do I have to do it again? Do I have to go back? Do I have to undo? Do I have to make a correction? Like, and how do I even know that the FAFSA I've submitted is correct? Because
Whole nother
that's a
issue.
whole other can of
Kettle of
worms.
fish. What?
Oh my God.
Wild West.
Yeah. Oh God. I blew the 3-second rule of coming up with another analogy.
Just start over. Anyway, so when you get a blast like that, don't assume that you're in trouble or something's wrong. It may not be that something's amiss. Double check, make sure everything was filed.
Check your school's portal.
And if it's not, they'll work it out.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Good. All right. I don't see any more questions here. I think you gave so much helpful information
I hope so.
that I want to puke. It was so helpful.
Well, that's not the reaction
pretty
I was
helpful.
hoping for.
Really?
I hope you would do something other than puke.
All right. Well, it was great information. Let's just agree on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
And
So-
if you have questions about anything I discussed or about any other college-related issues, questions, etc., we are here every Monday at 10 a.m. And you can lob your questions into our chat here, and we will answer them either during the week or next week's show.
Yeah, if you miss us live, pop them in here if you're watching on replay, and we always get in there and try to answer. Basically the ones that are going to help not just you, but other people who might be watching. And you never know who's watching. We got contacted by a couple of reporters a couple weeks ago, just from stuff we'd post on Facebook. So we're happy to be a source of information for anyone who needs it. Pearl, nice
Andy.
job. Nice job.
Thank you.
All right, have a great week, everyone. Thanks for watching.